through the rest of the the rest of the morning drive time. So let me say good morning again to all of our loyal listeners. Good morning to Mr. and Mrs. Giuseppe, Mr. and Mrs. Regis, my colleague Sharon, and Bruce. Good morning to Mother Tunapuna. Also, Alison, Samuel, good morning to you, ma'am. Special birthday, belated birthday greetings go out this morning to my very good friend and one of our loyal listeners, Miss Louise Mathura. I hope you had a good one yesterday. And Mano, morning, Angie. No, Angie's usually locked on at this time. So, wherever you're taking us in, if it is that you are sitting around your kitchen table or you're standing by the sink, preparing lunch, or you're almost finished preparing that sumptuous lunch today. You're in your hammock, in your car, making your way to or from the grocery, the market, wherever it is that you are. Right. It's already 11:20, how time flies. So let me get straight into it, folks. It was my intention to put in my 2 cents or my critique of the response of the leader of the opposition to the budget, but there wasn't anything really to respond to. In fact, I wouldn't even call what the opposition leader did on Friday a response to the budget, because very little, or precious little, that was said related to the actual budget statement. Instead, we heard of a lot of irrelevancies about Faris' car and Faris selling his car, and he didn't register, he didn't transfer the vehicle. We had to hear about again the story about the Police Service Commission and all of that stuff. You criticized the budget. You had an opportunity. It took almost 3 hours or a little more than 3 hours to talk, and did precious little to speak to the issues that you have with the budget. You're telling your supporters the budget is no good. It was long on rhetoric and short on substance, that it was a cheese and biscuit budget and so on, and it doesn't help the poor and whatnot, and yet still you capitulated. Speaking of capitulated, Trinidad and Tobago, I don't know how many of us are aware, those of us who were minded to look at the budget debate yesterday, because it's something that a lot of us continue or tend to look at on an annual basis, right? Because it provides a little bit of comic relief to some extent when you listen to the contributions from members of the opposition. But it's also an opportunity for us to hear from the respective ministers how their allocations will be spent, what are the plans that they have for spending that money in the next 12 months or so, to address any concerns that the public may have, because usually when the Minister of Finance is reading the budget, he would just give us like the skeletal framework, and he would indicate, as he did last Monday, that the substantive ministers would go into greater detail, because it would have been their ministries that would have sent their budget request to the Ministry of Finance for funding, right? So we look forward to hearing from different ministers. Some of us might have specific ministers that we want to hear from, perhaps because their ministry might be somehow related to perhaps something that we do in our professional lives, and we want to hear more on that. Some of us want to hear specific people because of their debating skills, and they just do a very, very good job of chewing up and spitting out the opposition. Unfortunately, this year, if you were looking forward to hearing the likes of the Prime Minister, if you were looking forward to hearing the likes of Fitzgerald Hines, Marvin Gonzalez, Stuart Young, Camille Robinson Regis, and others, you will not have that opportunity, at least not in the lower house, and not to any great detail, save and except for when each minister now comes before the Standing Finance Committee, and they have 5 minutes in which to speak, and then they will address any concerns or questions that are raised by the opposition. Because yesterday, the budget debate spectacularly collapsed, much to the surprise of many and much to the chagrin of others. And I think I fall in between both of those two groups. Because as I said, in particular, I was hoping to hear from the Minister of Housing, because there's been much ado about the allocation made to the Ministry of Housing, just over some $600 million. And so some people wanted to know, well, given such a, what they may consider to be a minuscule allocation, what does that augur for the construction of houses in the next 12 months? But we've heard a lot about public-private partnerships where the Ministry of Housing will be engaging in some of these private partnerships with certain private sector entities for the construction of houses. And so perhaps that is the reason why they would not require that much money, because we have examples of where this housing development in Mount Lambert there, where NH International would have engaged in a public-private partnership with the government for the construction of those towers, those apartment towers there. I think they would have provided the funding and so on. The government provided the land, and NH would have provided financing and so on and everything else. And when the units are sold, they would then be compensated. So I suppose they're looking for a lot more than that, like that. But again, unless the Minister of Housing makes an appearance in the Senate, or perhaps when her ministry is being grilled, we're not going to hear too much about that. And yesterday's collapse created yet another opportunity for us to see that the United National Congress, and who vexed because I always talk about the UNC, but you know, that's not always the case. I had to talk about them today. Bunch of liars. Lying is in their DNA, unfortunately. And we need only to go on social media today and we will see the example of such. How did the budget debate collapse? Well, for those of us who have been looking at the budget debate, not just this year, but in previous years, we understand how a debate goes, right? One speaker from one side, speaker from another side, we interchange, it's alternating. So when someone from the government speaks, somebody from the opposition will then get up and speak. They would rebut what was said. If there is need for a rebuttal of what was said by the previous speaker, they would make their critique of the budget. They sit down. Member of the government come and speak again. Member of the opposition, and you keep going like that. So you could hear from both sides, and if there is opportunity, as I said, for rebuttal, you go ahead. So the last speaker yesterday was the Member of Parliament for W Mirror, Lisa Morris Julian. When Mrs. Morris Julian was finished speaking, the expectation was that somebody from the opposition bench would get up and speak. Everybody knows that's how it's supposed to go. While Mrs. Morris Julian was speaking, the members of the opposition were aware that someone on their side was expected to speak next. When the member for W Mirror finished speaking, naturally, the then presiding officer, the deputy speaker, Esmond Ford, turned to the opposition bench. Nobody sought to catch his attention for him to call on them to speak. So after a temporary pause, he said, well, Chief Whip, want to know what's going on? Who's next to speak on your side? Well, we couldn't hear exactly what was taking place because the parliament channel would have turned off the speaker or the phones, right? The microphone. So you couldn't hear. But it appeared, based on what you were seeing, as if David Lee, who is the chief whip, was kind of gesticulating to the member for Aruka Maloney, the leader of government business. Well, you go ahead now. But that is not how it works. So everybody waiting to see what it is going on now. Shortly thereafter, the deputy speaker turns to the leader of government business and find, well, okay, all you going and speak, what's going on? Because we want to know. Nothing happening. There were 4 members of the opposition in the chamber at that time who were yet to speak. Rudal Munilal, David Lee, Saddam Hussein, Rudy Indar Singh. 4 of them sit down there. Not a man made a move to get up to speak. Okay. It's not the government's turn to speak. Now some people may say, well, why didn't the government just take the opportunity and let the members of parliament on the government side come and give their presentation? Again, that is not how a debate works. Because if it is that all of the government ministers and the government members spoke, then it means that you run down your bench so that when the sitting is suspended or it is adjourned to next week and you come back, it will be the opposition talking and you would have limited members on the government side to respond to any nonsense that they may decide to spew. There would be limited members on the government side to be able to rebut any rubbish that they come to speak about. And we heard plenty rubbish from members of the opposition. A lot. Much of it had nothing to do with the budget. We had to hear about COVID and the government's response to COVID and vaccination and all of that. Nothing to do with the budget that they tell us was so terrible. Nothing. But what else did you expect? But Trinidad and Tobago, let me highlight for you how dishonest the United National Congress is. Having caused the budget debate to collapse and not wanting to take responsibility as they should, the UNC puts out a press release yesterday, and it's put out under the hand of the leader of the opposition. And here's what it reads. Opposition leader, in an act of cowardice, Keith Rowley hid from Parliament and did not contribute to the budget debate. PNM MPs appeared to be confused by the closure of the debate. Really? Apparently, she wasn't watching the same thing I was watching, because she wasn't in the chamber either. In an act of cowardice, Keith Rowley hid from Parliament and did not speak in the budget debate. Is it that Keith Rowley is too weak to stand and speak in Parliament for a mere 45 minutes to defend his own budget? Now, what I found interesting about that particular paragraph, where you talk about is the Prime Minister too weak to stand and speak. And I imagine that what would have motivated that particular line is the fact that those of us who would have listened to the PNM's meeting on Friday from Belmont, at least two of the speakers, Stuart Young and I think Fitzgerald Hines, would have made mention of the fact that while Mrs. Prasad Bisesa was speaking, while she was delivering her response to the budget, every time there was a ruckus in the Parliament where her members would get up to raise a point of order or something because they find crosstalk or whatever it is, she would apparently they brought a chair for her to sit. And every time a ruckus took place, she would use that opportunity to go and sit down, to take a little rest. Or as according to Fitzgerald Hines, it's like a boxer in a boxing match, and then when the bell rang, they had to go back in the corner and sit down to recuperate. Well, apparently that is what was happening to Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, that every time there was a little pause, she seized on that opportunity to go and sit down. And we've been seeing her doing it in her Monday night forum, where oftentimes, within recent times, she's been sitting down a lot, right? And then to make it look good, we see they decided to have some of the other speakers do the same thing to make it look as if everybody's sitting, right? But we know why they're doing it. And for those of us who would have noticed several times Mrs. Prasad Bisesa coughing and several times having to drink water. Within probably, you will see she would drink water now and then in 2 minutes she goes back to drink water again. And she did that several times. And so persons are perhaps concerned about her state of health. Okay? But they decided to try and palm it off on Dr. Rowley. Well, anybody who saw Dr. Rowley on Friday night knows that this is rubbish to ask if Dr. Rowley is too weak to stand up for 45 minutes. Dr. Rowley could talk for 3 hours and more. Yet the other day, they had a problem when the Minister of Planning ceded her time to Dr. Rowley for him to speak for far more than 45 minutes. But they're questioning now if he has the stamina to speak. I continue. It is evident that this dictator cannot defend his punishing property tax, his fuel liberalization plans, and other punitive measures which his government is seeking to implement in this 2022 budget. On Saturday, 9th October 2021, at around 5:45 p.m., just after MP Rudal Munilal moved a motion for breach of parliamentary privilege against AG Faris Al-Rawi, the government failed to put forward any speaker to continue the debate. This in spite of the opposition chief whip, David Lee, offering them the option of adjourning to Monday, seeing that government MPs were totally unprepared. And again, Trinidad and Tobago, it behoves me to understand that these people could lie with impunity with such a... Look, let me keep it radio friendly. Let me repeat that again. The government failed to put forward any speaker to continue the debate, and this in spite of the opposition chief whip, David Lee, offering them the option. There was no need for David Lee to offer any option to the government because it was not the government's turn to speak. Lisa Morris Julian, the PNM MP for Dabadi Omera, was the last member to speak, and the next person to speak was supposed to come from the opposition bench. There were 4 members of the opposition sitting in the chamber who had not yet spoken. And none of them, when the deputy speaker turned to them, not one of them got up to speak. So it was not on the government to proffer anybody to speak. So contrary to this piece of fiction that they put out here, and figure people weren't looking, and I continue to make the point, when you don't know who is listening, who is reading these things, you see, they think everybody is of the waterfront ilk, so that they wouldn't have time or patience to look at the Parliament channel to see what it is took place. But I continue. Faced with no one prepared to speak from the government bench and MP Rudal Munilal present in the chamber to speak next for the opposition, the Minister of Finance was told to wrap up the budget. Another piece of fiction, Trinidad and Tobago. Faced with no one prepared to speak from the government bench and MP Rudal Munilal present in the chamber to speak next for the opposition. So why didn't he do that? The speaker, when she returned to the chair, said, so is it that nobody else is prepared to speak? There was no answer. The speaker then said, well, okay, before I call on the Minister of Finance to wrap up, I will recognize the member for Oropuch East. At which point, Rudal Munilal jumped to his legs and he trotted across to the enclosure, and he read out his motion for privilege against Faris Al-Rawi. He came back, he sat down, and the speaker called on the Minister of Finance. In fact, when it was that the deputy speaker called on the chief whip to find out, well, who is going to speak next on your side, and there was no proper response, right? And David Lee looked as if he was gesticulating to the government, well, let go ahead now. We willing to give, let go ahead now, right? Which is not the procedure. So the Minister of Planning, the leader of government business, Camille Robinson-Regis, then got up and she asked David Lee, so is it that you all have nobody to speak? Who's prepared to speak? And then Khadija Amin now, so then Mrs. Camille Robinson-Regis said, well, okay, but just give us a few minutes. The minister is getting his papers together and so on, and she walked behind the chair. Khadija Amin and they start, what is going on here? The minister is in the chamber. He should be wrapping up. So she called on the minister to wrap up. Khadija Amin called on the minister to wrap up, indicating that there was nobody on their side prepared to speak. So what utter garbage is this that the UNC put out here this morning, talking about Rudal Munilal was next to speak and was prepared to speak, but it's because nobody was prepared on the government side? Really? I continue. All of this occurred while chaotic scenes took place behind the speaker's chair, with government MPs scrambling to figure out what to do. Minister Imbert seemed to be caught off guard by the speaker and did not use his entire 45-minute speaking time. Several PNM MPs, Stuart Young, Camille Robinson-Regis, Marvin Gonzalez, Penelope Beckles, who remained seated in the chamber, all refused to speak. Information relayed to opposition members stated that some government MPs refused an instruction to defend Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi in their budget speeches. It is clear the PNM MPs chose to commit mutiny and not speak rather than stand in Parliament and be forced to defend Faris Al-Rawi. This is a budget debate. The budget debate is not about Faris Al-Rawi. It had nothing to do with Faris Al-Rawi. Okay? So this, again, piece of nonsense from the UNC that they got, that members of the government and the PNM side got instructions not to defend. There was nothing to defend. The budget debate was not to discuss Faris Al-Rawi's Porsche. The budget debate was not to discuss anything to do with the role and function of the Attorney General. The purpose of the budget was for each minister to, one, indicate what their ministry would be doing over the course of the next 12 months, how they propose to spend their money, and to rebut any nonsense, any trash, any garbage that came from the opposition with respect to the budget. It had nothing to do with Faris Al-Rawi. So this foolishness that members didn't speak because they wouldn't want to defend Faris. There was nothing to defend. I continue. The opposition was thoroughly prepared through our remaining MPs who were present in Parliament to contribute to the budget debate and respond. The government's failure to account for what was done in the past year, as well as plans for expenditure in the coming fiscal year, is extremely worrying. It is also abundantly clear that members of the government are not prepared to defend the actions of their colleague, Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi, and the opposition will continue to use all lawful means at our disposal to hold this government accountable. Kamla Prasad Bisessa, SCMP, leader of the opposition, right? Now, Trinidad and Tobago, tell me, was that on Friday, yesterday, was it the budget debate that was taking place, or was it a motion of no confidence in the Attorney General? Because if it was a motion of no confidence in the Attorney General, I could understand where you could say that debate collapsed. right? Because it is expected that members of the government would be required, and the substance of the debate would be to speak in defense of the AG. But there was no motion of no confidence against the AG yesterday. This was the budget debate. These people, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, want to hear about expenditure. The $52 or $53 billion that is budgeted to be spent, they want to hear how it will be spent to their benefit. They want to hear from the different ministers. And if it is that the opposition is claiming that the budget is no good, they want to hear from them. Explain to us why you say it is no good. It had nothing to do with Faris. But again, this is the pathetic attempt of the United National Congress to mask their incompetence, their abject failure, and their total uselessness. What are they being paid to do? To post memes on Facebook? It seems that's all they're getting paid to do, right? Nothing else. Let me explain this. Khadija Amin, Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, again demonstrating that she's true UNC with her lies. She put out on Facebook yesterday, right? Shortly after they capitulated. Here's what she put out. Question: in what country does the Prime Minister abandon a parliament and budget day to go play golf? Right? That's Khadija Amin. When the Prime Minister doesn't even bother to defend the budget, shaking my head. Shortly thereafter, I'm guessing a UNC councillor by the name of Nasser Hussain puts out a meme which Khadija Amin decided to share. So it's a composite photo, one of the parliamentary chamber with the words budget debate ongoing, and one below that, meanwhile, Rowley golfing. And there's a picture with the Prime Minister with a golf club in his hand. Now, Trinidad and Tobago, all those of you who listen to this station would know that yesterday, the Prime Minister was hosting a vaccination drive in his constituency. I recall, I think it was Friday or Thursday, Thursday or Friday, where Mammy called in, and I think she made mention of that meeting. And shortly thereafter, Leave It There called in, and he was speaking to Google, and he was asking how come they're not stating where the meeting taking place. Is it that they don't want him to attend or so on? And Google then proceeded to say where the event was being held. So it was public knowledge that the Prime Minister wasn't playing any golf yesterday. It is public knowledge that the Prime Minister was attending to his constituency in an effort to use his good office to encourage persons to become vaccinated. And there is ample evidence on his Facebook page, ample evidence on his Instagram page, with pictures and video footage. There are newspaper articles this morning where members of the media would have interviewed the Prime Minister at this event and asked him certain questions. So it is all there. The evidence is there. But that didn't prevent the Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, Khadija Amin, to create bacchanal and kutru, to lie on the Prime Minister and put out this post on her Facebook page to encourage the illiterati, the members of the UNC illiterati, to attack the Prime Minister in an effort to deflect from their ineptitude, their incompetence, and total waste of time. Total waste. And they would have deprived the citizens of this country of the opportunity to hear from the individual ministers, because the government has nothing to defend. The budget is the government. The Minister of Finance read the budget, in which he is well pleased, in which the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago is well pleased. And the purpose of the debate really was for the opposition to come and say, well, why it is they're not prepared to support. And in making those utterances, that the members of the government would use the opportunity to elucidate on their role and what their ministries would be doing with their allocations, but also to respond to what the opposition says. But in the absence of any contribution from the opposition, there's nothing for the government to do. But I'm not surprised about Khadija Amin and her ability and the ease with which she would lie. Right? The ease with which she would lie. And you would think by now, I am certain by now she's aware, because I went on her Facebook page and I commented under the post, right? And I tagged her with the link to the Prime Minister's Facebook page. So all she had to do was to go on it, and she would have seen what the Prime Minister was doing yesterday. And as you know, it would come up in a notification on Facebook, so that she would have been notified, so that she could go to her page and see what the message was. and realized that what she put up there was a damn lie. But she left it up and added to it, compounded later on with this meme from NASA, whatever the heck his name is. So double down on the lie. Just like several of them in the parliament yesterday and on Friday, the opposition bench, in their contributions, saying that the government removed VAT off of 8 to 12 items. Since Wednesday or thereabout, the Supermarket Association put out a preliminary list of some of the items from which VAT was removed. And that list contained at least 45 items. Now, I know all these members of the opposition have been active on Facebook, social media for the last few days. So they would have seen that. And we know they were active because everybody talking about this standpipe, the picture of this standpipe in Morvau in Lavantil, where WASA opened a new booster station, or they recommissioned a booster station, and there was a symbolic ribbon cutting ceremony with Adrian Leons and some children cutting a ribbon at a standpipe, I believe, on the compound of the booster station. And the UNC took that picture and ran with it, create all kind of memes, send it all over Facebook. In 2021, the government, when standpipes are being decommissioned all over the place, the government put in standpipe for people to use. And they made it seem as if the government spent $1.2 million or something on this standpipe. So that was the whole talk for the last few days, the picture of this standpipe with Adrian Leons and the children. That's the UNC for you. Dishonesty. So speaker after speaker come up to say only 8 to 12 items. VAT was removed from only 8 to 12 items when they knew for a fact that it was more than that. So much so that one of their former activists, well, I don't know what role he plays now, Garth Christopher, one of the more prominent, took a turn in their backside on his Facebook page, Break Free Movement, where he chastised and condemned the UNC for lying to the people and saying that it was only 8 to 12 items when they knew for a fact it was more than that. So there seems to be a smidgen of integrity in the UNC still. Unfortunately, it's not from the upper echelons of the party. Now, I want to play something, right? Again, to demonstrate the dishonesty of Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the lack of integrity and the dishonesty of the entire opposition bench. Because Rudal Munilal saw it fit to, yesterday, he didn't have time to contribute to the budget, but he had time to come and read out the motion of privilege against the Attorney General. Right? He had time to do that. So, you come now and you read out your motion, because apparently when Paris Al-Rawi was making his contribution, in response to the leader of the opposition calling him the government's landlord and talking about all the buildings that his family owns, his wife's family owns, that is being rented to the state, he responded and he mentioned that the families of Jerry Hadi, the family of Jack Warner, the family of Kamla Persad-Bissessar had or are renting properties to the government. So the motion of privilege that they brought is because of, in passing, where he would have called 4 or 5 names or 3 or 4 names of opposition members who were then in government whose families rented property to the state. And he mentioned Kamla Persad-Bissessar, and for that they brought a motion of no confidence. But they have an issue with that. But they didn't have an issue with Kamla Persad-Bissessar lying blatantly, stating that the Attorney General did not make a declaration to the Integrity Commission with respect to the sale of his car in 2016. She said he didn't do it in 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and it was only in 2021. And the Attorney General would have then gone on in his turn to explain what it is that he would have submitted in 2021, where the Integrity Commission wrote to him seeking clarification on a matter with respect to that same vehicle sale, which he reported to the Integrity Commission in 2016. Right? Now, if it is the AG was lying and what Kamla Persad-Bissessar, if she believed what she said was true, why didn't she call a press conference to say the AG is lying? Look, the proof is here. Why didn't she put out a press release to say the AG is lying? This is the proof here. She didn't do that. You know why? Because, anyway. Let me play this. Right? Let me play this. I'll play Mrs. Persad-Bissessar first, what she said, and then I'll play the AG.
We all know we are persons in public life, and as persons in public life, by law, we are compelled to declare assets to the Integrity Commission. Now, the Form B, we cannot see a person in public life. I can't see the Form A declaration, but we are allowed to examine the Form B at the Integrity Commission that any public person has filed. We learned recently of an individual who sold a Porsche SUV to their friends but did not transfer it. That is apparently in breach of the law. Additionally, if such a person in public life fails to declare any sale of any assets, he is also in breach of the law. Based on the records in the Integrity Commission, a person in public life sold a vehicle, a Porsche, in 2016 and failed to disclose the sale to the Integrity Commission in 2017, in 2018, in 2019, in 2020. Failed in breach of the law. Madam Speaker, only in 2021, after a marked bus, as people say, was the sale declared by way of a letter dated in February 2021. Why did it take 5 years to disclose the sale? Why?
So, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa should write a book, right? And she should call it How to Lie Bold-Facedly in the Parliament and Avoid Parliamentary Privilege. So I will say somebody in public life. I will say, but I will not say what position the person holds. I will not say the person's name. I will just say somebody in public life, right? So they cannot say that I identified anybody in particular and bring me before the Privileges Committee. So I will lie bold-facedly. I would lie unashamedly, so that when the individual comes out and proves me to be a liar, they cannot bring me before the Privileges Committee because I'd never identified who the individual was. Let's hear the AG now.
Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition went into details about a car, made direct reference to a letter that she supposedly has from the Integrity Commission's files. And I want to remind this nation that there is a law that makes it a criminal offense for breach of secrecy at the Integrity Commission. And I would like to know how the leader of the opposition is allegedly in possession or in fact in possession of files from the Integrity Commission. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, I want to address what the leader of the opposition said. You see, the leader of the opposition made a bold statement that I, Faris Al-Rawi, had failed to disclose matters to the Integrity Commission. And I wish to read, Madam Speaker, from the Integrity Commission Declaration of Submissions on the Integrity Commission Integrity in Public Life Act 2000. Every person in public life is obliged to fill out a Form A and a Form B. And as a matter of record from the written and filed documents in my hand, the copies of them now, I can tell you that at item 6, here is what is described and filed at the Integrity Commission. Porsche Cayenne PCS 84, in whose name held, declarant Faris Al-Rawi, $600,000, proceeds of sale, sold, and it's under the item, description of any assets sold. So when the leader of the opposition comes here to tell a gross untruth, I am telling you now as a matter of record at the Integrity Commission, I have made all my
Okay, just give me 1 second here, folks. Again, this internet every week. Oh boy. 1 sec, people. 1 sec. Let me see here. is it? I was the come on. Let's see if this is going to work here. All right. So the ads are coming up, folks. So, and I really want to play this clip from the AG for two reasons. One, so that he could expose Mrs. Prasad.
And is also not telling the country that under her prime ministership, Jack.
Right. I want to play that as well. Again, I'll have to take some of your call time. There were two things the AG said in that little clip that I'm about to play. One is the issue of his rebuttal to Mrs. Prasad Bisesson, exposing her to be the liar that she is. But two, he also made mention of the properties that she spoke about and when those properties would have been rented, who those properties were rented by, right? And then thirdly, he would have made a disclosure that apparently there are some matters that are being investigated by the British authorities of occurrences that took place under the last administration, and according to the Attorney General, if he were Mrs. Prasad Bisesson, he would be quaking in his boots, that she should be very, very worried about what is being investigated. And of course, you know, apparently he rattled the cage of the opposition members so much when he made that declaration that at least two of the speakers who came afterwards had to say, well, Mrs. Prasad Bisesson, nothing to worry about, and the AG just trying to deflect and whatnot and stuff. Really? Really? Seems to me somebody is worried. Very much so. But as I said, we go into the ads, and when we come back, hopefully the internet will behave, and we will finish play the AG, and then I will open the lines so that you can have your say. So stay locked to the street, 919, and we will be back in about maybe 5 or maybe about 6 minutes or so. So don't touch your dial.
Sign up and save with Green Dot. When you subscribe to any of our broadband packages, you get 30% off the installation fee, allowing you to stream your favorite shows on any of your devices. Update your social media accounts and connect with friends and family. Stay on top of the class with online learning sessions. Or keep your team in the loop with virtual meetings, all at an affordable price. This is a limited time offer, so don't wait. Call 224-GDOT today to sign up and save with Green Dot, improving and simplifying lives.
Simpson's Memorial Limited, number 63 Eastern Main Road, Laventille. Internationally accredited funeral directors and embalmers, a full-service funeral home serving families of Trinidad and Tobago and internationally since 1945. At Simpson's Memorial Limited, we serve with dignity in assisting families in honoring the memory of their loved ones. Our services include professional funeral and pre-planning, burials and cremation, custom-built and imported caskets, coffins and cremation trays, cemetery management, limousines, mourners' cars, grief counseling, web streaming of funerals, fully air-conditioned chapel with live musical accompaniment, full global shipping and receiving of loved ones. We specialize in facial restorations. Call us anytime, day or night, at 623-8688. That number again is 623-8688. Simpsons Memorial Limited. Superior service, always with excellence.
Take me to the king. I don't have much to bring.
Tune in to the Street 919 FM every Friday from 9:15 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. with Kingdom Health Services, situated at number 91 Eastern Main Road in St. Augustine. For the program, Health and Healing, merging the old with the new with Brent Diet. For more information, call 318-7471 or 484-0141 or 360-4100. It's all about Kingdom Health Services on the Street 919 FM.
Hi, what's up, TNT? This is Wayne Johnson out of Brooklyn, New York. I always wanted to do something back home, and we're going to be doing our gospel segment on Mondays from 10 p.m. to 12 midnight. That's 10 p.m. to 12 midnight on 91.9 FM. Listen what I want you to do. Spread the word. Spread the word, TNT. Salvation, full and free. Salvation is for everybody. Mondays from 10 p.m. to 12 midnight. That's 10 p.m. to 12 midnight on 91.9 FM.
Police, good day. Officer Best Price here. Johnny Q Auto Parts Division?
Yes, sir.
I'm here to investigate an assault on batteries.
Excuse me, sir?
Is it true you have batteries selling for $488?
Yes. Power Master, Optima, Vata, and Megastar batteries.
So I could buy a battery for $488?
Yes, sir. For cars, trucks, and boats. Backed and distributed by Massey Automotive.
Which part?
Right here at Johnny Q Hardware and Auto Parts Division, 15 Arrowpita Avenue, Woodbrook. And our new Johnny Q Superstore, located at Lowlands Mall off Claude Noel Highway in Tobago. You could call 63 Tools.
Alright, thanks, boss. Nah, man. Granny,
Do you have $488 to lend, man?
If you're experiencing pain, constipation, headaches, poor blood circulation, high or low blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, swollen or darkened feet, come visit us at Health and Wealth Lifestyle, located at 73 Eastern Main Road, Barataria, opposite Eastern Credit Union. We at Health and Wealth Lifestyle offer a wide range of services. Come and experience our new 3D analyzer, which allows you to have a look inside your body. We also provide live blood analysis, iridology, ionic foot detox with foot soak and foot massage, aquatherapy, full body massage, and organic supplements on sale such as Nano Silver, Nano Zinc, Body Light, cold pressed sesame oil, and more. Health and Wealth Lifestyle, located at number 73 Eastern Main Road, Barataria, opposite Eastern Credit Union. For more information, call 275-8359 or 288-1108.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
And I want to remind this nation that there is a law that makes it a criminal offense for breach of secrecy at the Integrity Commission. And I would like to know how the leader of the opposition is allegedly in possession or in fact in possession of files from the Integrity Commission. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, I want to address what the leader of the opposition said. You see, the leader of the opposition made a bold statement that I, Faris Al-Rawi, had failed to disclose matters to the Integrity Commission. And I wish to read, Madam Speaker, from the Integrity Commission declaration of submissions on the Integrity Commission Integrity in Public Life Act 2000. Every person in public life is obliged to fill out a Form A and a Form B. And as a matter of record from the written and filed documents in my hand, the copies of them now, I can tell you that at item 6, here is what is described and filed at the Integrity Commission. Porsche Cayenne PCS 84, in whose name held, declarant Faris Al-Rawi, $600,000, proceeds of sale, sold, and it's under the item, description of any assets sold. So when the leader of the opposition comes here to tell a gross untruth, I am telling you now as a matter of record at the Integrity Commission, I have made all my declarations in writing, and the records of the Integrity Commission will show that. But Madam Speaker, this is the same leader of the opposition who has come to this parliament before. I want to remind you that it was Kamla Prasad Bisesa, as a member of the House, that came to read out chapter and verse on Dhanraj Singh in a fabrication that ended up in exoneration of persons whom she raised allegations against. So there is a pattern on the records of the parliament which demonstrate that the leader of the opposition just simply cannot be relied on to tell the truth. Let's go further. Madam Speaker, it's a matter of record that the Integrity Commission wrote to me on January 29th, 2021, and in that asked me to confirm that the sale of that same vehicle, PCY 84, declared to them since 2016, was to be included under the heading Gains and Profits, Disposal of Motor Vehicle. It is a matter of record at the Integrity Commission that I replied on the 26th of February 2021, confirming that inquiry. Now, Madam Speaker, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, the member for Siparia, has to tell this country whether she has information that has been illegally obtained from the Integrity Commission in breach of the laws of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, because not for Section 55 of the Constitution.
The Attorney General is imputing that the leader of the opposition got information illegally.
I overrule.
Yes, Madam Speaker, let me repeat this. The leader of the opposition gave a date, gave a letter that I wrote to the Integrity Commission, and the leader of the opposition has come under the cloak of parliamentary privilege under Section 55 of the Constitution, cloaked with parliamentary privilege, and I am asking the question whether the leader of the opposition has breached the laws of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And what I am saying further, Madam Speaker, from what I have just read out, is that the leader of the opposition's fabrication and untruth is to be addressed by the fact that everything was declared, Madam Speaker, and the records show that. Madam Speaker, let's go on to the leader of the opposition's position that I am the landlord of the government. Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition referred to 4 properties owned by companies which relatives of my wife have interest in. Let's deal with them. She mentioned Agra Street property that is rented by the Office of the Commissioner of Police. Madam Speaker, that building was rented by the efforts of one John Humphrey in a UNC government. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition mentioned a property at St. Vincent Street in Port of Spain, where the Ministry of Social Development is. That property was rented in the year 2000 under a UNC government that then presided after and occupied and paid rent for 21 years later. Now, the Leader of the Opposition comes to impugn that. The leader of the opposition mentioned 1 Alexandra Street, rented between 2009 and 2010, some 11 years ago, when the leader of the opposition paid to outfit that building in a scandalous arrangement that saw a division between 2 ministers, the Minister of Local Government, Marlene Coudray, refusing to authorize what she said publicly to be a corrupt deal to outfit the building. All of this occurred under Kamla Persad-Bissessar as the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, in January 2012, my own records in my possession demonstrate that then Minister of Housing, then the Honorable Rudal Munilal, wrote to me asking for the rental of number 3 Alexandra Street. Madam Speaker, so let me put it in summary. It is ludicrous for the leader of the opposition to pretend that rentals of properties were occasioned and taken under the UNC government, and that she is talking about members of my wife's family who have been in business with the government since 1975. And the minister, the leader of the opposition, is also not telling the country that under her prime ministership, Jack Warner rented properties to members of his family, Jerry Hadid had members of his family, Kamla Persad-Bissessar's members of family, all receive rentals from the government. Now, Madam Speaker, let me go a little bit further. By way of letter dated October 9th, 2020 from the Integrity Commission to me, Faris Al-Rawi, I was informed that one Emir Crown, acting on behalf of an activist, had made a complaint that the rental of 3 Alexandra Street was against the Integrity in Public Life Act. And I'm reading from the letter that the Integrity Commission wrote to me. This is reference to Dr. Crown. He was also informed that the Commission was satisfied that the relevant criterion and protocols leading up to the Cabinet decision for the leasing by the government of number 3 Alexandra Place had all been met and observed respectively by all persons in public life or exercising public function connected therewith. In other words, the Commission found no evidence of any breach of the Act as regards the processes and protocols followed, and which ultimately led to the decision by the Cabinet for the leasing by the government of number 3 Alexandra Place from Zaman Enterprises Limited. And listen to this. Finally, he was informed that you, meaning me, Faris Al-Rawi, had dutifully observed all the requirements of Section 14.3 of the Act, meaning the Integrity in Public Life Act. Madam Speaker, let's get to the real elephant in the room. Madam Speaker, I wish to inform publicly today that I had cause to write the Attorney General of the United Kingdom, the Honorable Suella Braverman, QC MP, in relation to whistleblowing testimony provided to the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, in relation to criminal proceedings in the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and in relation to ongoing criminal proceedings in the United Kingdom. And I have had cause to tell the Attorney General of the United Kingdom of the details of the cooperation of the government of Trinidad and Tobago and my office as Attorney General, and by my hand as Attorney General, in working with the National Crime Agency and the Crown Prosecution Services of the United Kingdom. And I can say publicly now, there are active, ongoing matters in the United Kingdom as a result of whistleblowing testimony provided to the government of Trinidad and Tobago, which was given to the United Kingdom authorities, and that if I was Mrs. Persad-Bissessar, I would be shaking in my boots right now. Let me repeat that. If I was Mrs. Persad-Bissessar, the member for Siparia, I would be mortally afraid of what is being investigated by the British authorities. And Madam Speaker, I would like to address the further elephant in the room. There is no coincidence that 1 hour of the Leader of the Opposition speech was spent on me in the exercise of my holding office and personal matters.
Please continue.
Yes, Madam Speaker. You see, the Prime Minister often tells me that because I am such a careful Attorney General that the population does not know the truth. So today from this podium, in this Parliament, I'm being very careful to inform the nation that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, the Leader of the Opposition, the member for Siparia, should be extremely afraid of the matters that are in the hands of the British authorities. And let me go further, Madam Speaker. In the cross-jurisdictional exercise, there are further matters with the Dutch government that are occupying attention that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa should be very afraid of as well. And Madam Speaker, when you connect the dots publicly, attack Faris on a car sold in 2016, because the licensing authority can't find a record. And for the record, let me say this: copies of the transfer documentation, the fact of personal attendance at the licensing authority, the checks which were paid, the integrity in public life declarations, all have been provided. So that's attack the car, attack the person, Faris Al-Rawi, property rental, Mr. Recusal. I want to ask the Leader of the Opposition, since when is it improper to abide by the Integrity in Public Life Act? When is it improper for Minister Young to abide by the Integrity in Public Life Act, or Minister Imbert, or any one of us that properly recuse ourselves just in case the Integrity in Public Life Act says that you ought to have? So attack Faris, attack the person, attack the car, but Madam Speaker, there is an attempt to attack the witness. And Madam Speaker, it is a matter of record that the laws of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago prohibit witness tampering. There are attacks on the attorney at law for the state's main witness in whistleblowing proceedings.
Right. So I think he covered everything that I wanted to raise there. So this issue about the buildings and the Attorney General is the government's landlord. See, all the buildings, Agra Street, St. Vincent Street, see when it was rented? Under the UNC back in 2000, right? Since then. But they're so dishonest. What they like to do? They only, when they given you the figures how much rent was paid to Faris, they only check in from 2010 and 2015 come forward. But they're not going to go back to tell you that it was since under them, 2000, they rented the very buildings that she complaining about today. Now I ask the question, since they're always complaining, the government renting building, right? The average tenure for renting a building, public service, is 3 years, right? How many times and how many buildings and how many leases were renewed between 2010 to 2015 that belonged to the family of Faris Al-Rawi? If you all had such a problem with it, when the lease period came to an end, whether it was in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, why didn't you all end the lease then? Why? Why did Rudal Munilal, as you heard Faris say there in 2012, write to Faris requesting the opportunity to rent number 3 Alexandra Street to house the very same department that it houses today, which is the CPO's office? Very same. And then, as I said before, I don't know what went on. Somebody probably whisper in Munilal ears or whoever and tell them, well, you can't do that. After all the things, all you say about number 1 Woodbrook, number 1 Alexandra Street, and it's still empty. You all pay $40-something million in rent. You pay $5 million for security to guard, to protect an empty building. $120 million to outfit, and the building's still empty. How the hell you could go and rent number 3 Alexandra Street? You're mad. So what did they do? They looked east. Yeah, they looked east like the three wise men. And went and rent office space in Barataria for $53 million. Not one public servant ever stepped foot in that building. And we got no value for that. Money gone down the drain. Can't find the building. And? But the UNC wouldn't talk about that. Kamla ain't gonna talk about that. No! All the buildings that they rent all around town are never occupied. Paid millions of dollars in rent. $9 million for a building on Pembroke Street. $4 million for a building on Frederick Street. Another $12 million for another building on Pembroke Street as well. Not a public servant ever stepped foot in that. Right? Money gone down the drain. But today they want to tell you, government could have spent this money on COVID relief and they could have spent this money on this and that. But anyway, another time. That's a discussion for another time. Right? And I've already taken up enough of your call time. So 342-0081, 466-5391. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dominic.
Good afternoon, sir.
And to the listeners, and 91.9. Listen now, Dominic. Watch now, bro. I really like this program this morning because it puts to rest a lot of arguments, the rubbish that he just follow up and come out with to say that dietary sense. But I want to say something, I'm going to tell you something, Dominic. If you ask the devil for help, you cannot rest for the rest of your life. You know. Let me tell you something. That opposition leader, she's tired, worn out, weary, have nothing good to say in public. Someone real, out of timing, weak, stupid, and she wants to rest, But she cannot. Because you know why? It's payback time, and you have to try and see to get free me now. You cannot leave here now, and you have to stay here. Whether you want to go and rock back and relax yourself with your grandchildren or not, you have to stay and take up this fight because I say so. Because you're owing. Have a nice day, brother.
Thank you, sir. And then that $100 and something $1,000 a month that she getting as a salary prime minister pension, salary as leader of the opposition, and salary as member of parliament for Superior. Hard, boy. Difficult. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dominic.
Central.
Dominic, you want to tell me a car or a vehicle was sold in 2016 and in 2021 it still wasn't transferred? How is that? All that fluff Farid Alwari talking is just a cover-up, boy. And this thing about this witness business, there's a lot more to be told about that. And this thing about rental. You come back with the same story again. If the UNC said do it, it is okay for the PNM to do it. Okay, Dominic?
And you missed the whole point of what I played, right? It had nothing to do with if the PNM could do it, if the UNC could do it. The UNC rented the building since 2000. The UNC did that. And all that would have happened is that over the years, the leases would have been renewed. The only new building that this administration would have rented would have been number 3 Alexander Street. But you heard me talk about Barataria. You have nothing to say about that. You have nothing to say about that. $53 million gone down the drain. Not one public servant ever stepped foot in the building and we can't find, but you have no problem. You're not concerned about that. As you heard Faris Al-Rawi say with respect to the vehicle, it is not his problem if it is that the licensing office can't find a record or can't find a document. He has provided documentation which shows that, and he spoke about it, where they keep saying that he didn't go present himself to do the transfer and so on. All of the documentation is there. How come, if it is that he is lying, as I said, why didn't the leader of the opposition call a press conference to say, Paris lying, look, we have the proof here? Why didn't do that? Why didn't put out a press release, as they love to do, the lying press release that they put out yesterday, claiming that is because of the government, that their speakers were ready to speak and the government caused the budget debate to collapse? When it says that I just demonstrated to you, Lisa Morris Julian was the last person to speak. She's PNM. Last I checked, unless she crossed the floor overnight and we didn't know, which means that the next person to talk was from the UNC side. Munilal was there, David Lee was there, Rudy and Dar Singh was there, Saddam Hussein was there. How come none of them got up to speak? But they're lying to say that that the government side wasn't prepared to speak. But anyway, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Good day, sir.
What do you expect? When after the Attorney General, the Speaker who came after the Attorney General the speaker of the House had us to address this man. This is a debate on finance, you know. This is not a debate about the building and a remand about this and about that. So what do you expect Central to come to say? If the people that they are listening to is feeding them unintelligent information, do you expect anything other than that from Central? He can't defend. Here what to defend Central. Because Wayne Mark said it, and the leader of the opposition, I have a man named Vincent Nelson. And listen to what the attorney, you will notice, all that talk, none of them in response to what the Attorney General said, that apparently the opposition is now sitting on the opposition leader is now sitting on a hot seat.
That's right.
You know, none of them in response to that and say that ain't so. Not one of them in the parliament. You know what I observe? All of them put she as a deity and come and before they could start, they had to praise this opposition leader is blah, 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 blah. But when the Attorney General was done with she was of Central. I could tell myself, I could sit down here, I would use the term of the Prime Minister because you made me have to say this. The wheels of justice may turn slow, but they surely do turn. And I expect to see a past Attorney General and his sidekick, because I don't think what happened under Section 34, where in Trinidad the American government was waiting for Ish and Steve, and all they bring our Attorney General here and give me Section 34 and tell the American government we go try the matter here. I don't think the English government want to hear that. That is tax evasion. And then we have what it is we signed just recently. So Central go and sleep now. All the jail, all they try to give to call the heart. Apparently, it seems as though it is going towards the same people who've been calling jail. Because up to now, she has not responded to the Attorney General to tell him that ain't so. What you saying? And that is not one of those in England. We have something with some vessels that we bought, not so? It's Holland?
Yes, the damning vessels.
Enjoy your day, Dominic. Jail is inevitable. Go and sleep, Central. Buy a blue and white as well. Make sure
blue. Oh gosh, and in the words of Anna and Ram Logan, jail and make the ripe fig. Well, he will learn that anyway. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Dominic.
Mr. Pottersfield. Mr. Pottersfield, what went on? Call me back. I know why your phone just cut off just so. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dominic, brother.
Greetings.
Yeah, good afternoon to all the brothers, Baratarian, and Pottersfield, everybody. Dominic, I feel Khadija, man. I've been watching Khadija for a long way. She have a crush on Dr. Rowley. When I meet Dr. Rowley in Parliament, Khadija, tell him how you feel about him, because all kind of foolishness she's been nitpicking for the longest while. On Dr. Rowley, it remind me, growing up in St. James, a girl had like a brethren. She going all over the place making up stories on him because she's looking for attention. So I really believe Big Bird really has a crush on Dr. Rowley. Dominic, let me tell you, all people to understand. Understand, and since 1975, the man in-laws have been in business renting out buildings to the state. And it has been going on, transcending government to government. So you see that lameness with Faris and Rally, that thing talk so was be beaten. I'm tired of that. The same Dr. Rowley opened up the government campus and outfitted it. Right? So the distraction now is Faris and a Porsche sell. The man showed the Integrity Commission all the documents that Dominic declared the transfer to the Porsche that he sell. So you see all this sort of foolishness. I tired of it now. Time for Trinidad and Tobago to be governed is the same thing over and over. All the opposition said in Parliament was to deflect is not the pandemic that created this financial situation. That is all they try to put in people's mind, that is not the pandemic. So people are to be real, and Central and them fellas have nothing you could say that could convince them. Them is unreachable. They are one value system for people and another value system for them. So Dominic, I'm listening. But Khadija, when I meet Dr. Rowley, tea room, tell him how you feel about him now. And give Dr. Rowley a little break there. You have a wife.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Dominic. Dominic.
Hey, Jenny.
Good afternoon to all listeners on 91.9. The opposition leader would have said during her contribution that is war. She declared war, I guess, on the PNM and probably anything they do. And then she went on to say it's political war she means, because it's not about sedition and all that. If by their presentation, that is the war she's talking about, well, she didn't even start the battle yet, she don't know it. Because this particular UNC, under Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, has shown themselves to be weak, totally inept, bereft of ideas, and totally unmatched for the Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley cabinet and his members of parliament. They do not have anything to offer. Their ideas are no longer relevant. They themselves only seem to be creating chaos, mayhem, bacchanal, and confusion in this country by everything that they are doing. We have seen it with the Rio Treaty. We have seen it when Mrs. Persad-Bissessar wanted this government to support Guaido over Maduro. We have seen it when she would have written to the American ambassador. We have seen it when she had written to the opposition in Australia. We saw it when the Indian High Commissioner got himself involved with the opposition, with the whole vaccine situation. Everything that they do is in total contradiction to peace and harmony among the races in this country. And it will continue to be so because, as I keep saying, Dr. Vishnu Bisram would have said in one of his articles that although Indians have economic power, they lack political power, but they wouldn't have it, I'm paraphrasing, because you say when they get into office, they only take up their time into first-class travel, cocktail parties, nepotism, giving contracts to friends and family, in taking money, in bribes, and everything that is contradictory to running a country or be staying in power. So they remain on the sidelines once they continue with that mindset. And I want to say, lastly, with the car situation, didn't we have the past AG, I think it's Anna Ram Logan, with a chassis number for two cars, the same thing, and with some car situation? That was never resolved. But again, it is very convenient. Every time UNC has been caught with a pants, dress everything down, they want to spin it wrong in the unusual way and pretend they are the victims and start to talk about Privat and how Halloran and this one do that in the PNM. And if PNM hold a higher standard, why they study what UNC do? That is their favorite thing. And we want to tell them that ain't going to work. The opposition leader says she declared war, political war, and I am saying we're doing the same thing to with facts, information, relevance, and we'll come there with the truth for people to hear. That is the war we wage in, truth. We come with the information, not disinformation. So, Dominic, thanks again for the opportunity and you reach home safely. Bye.
Thank you, Jenny. And just now. All right. So, I see Mr. Larry Lala. In response to what happened yesterday with the budget, the UNC could put all the spin they want on it. The embarrassing end to the budget debate occurred because they were caught with their pants down as a result of poor leadership. I wonder if Central hear that, boy. Mr. Butterspain.
Good afternoon to you, Dominic.
Yes, sir. Greetings.
Good afternoon to the listeners, 919 home and abroad. Dominic, you know something? I've put in the task of the people who that give people diarrhea when facts come out. Why? Here I telling you. They afraid you like cat afraid water. Because everything they say, you have been able to refute it with facts. And today, Dominic, don't forget it, I want to commend the and also the MP, Mr. Leon, for coming to defeat the consecutive lies about the UNC with standpipe. When it was not a standpipe, the first person start that is arguing with himself for the vomit. Like the first man in the morning edition, start to eat up himself. You know he does be eating up himself, Dominic. Like he's fighting with himself, the hand moving.
Yes.
He can't himself answer why he's not doing test cricket to the ACC. But that's another one. I go ask him the reason why. Sir, I'm waiting to hear the apology Monday morning, because the steel people in them has polished Trinidad and Tobago with a bundle of lies. Look, one of their own had to say that the opposition leader is a stranger to the truth. You know, Dominic? And you have people that buy that and run with it. I heard a lady talking about spread smaller now than when they raised the price. You know, man, the president saying, and the Prime Minister is saying nothing. Well, boy, I got frightened because the sawmill must be raised. Dominic, a big lie. I want to know what the Prime Minister had to do with the kiss bread, raise the bread, the national sawmill and raise flour. But it's a mantra, anything Kamala lead off with, a bunch of mistruth, stranger to the truth, they just take it up. And you know, Central London, so wicked and bad. Wicked and bad. There are many things that you have asked that I wouldn't stay to that you have done that job already. Tell them everything. The unknown building that we paid, taxpayers paid for. You know, that's all right for them. That's all right for them. If the UNC took 3 months, 14 days to feed all the vessels and all the non-qualified persons of them, no problem at all with Central and them. So Dominic, continue, my brother. Continue. And Mr. Minister, you continue on the vein together with Mr. Leons. All you're working for Trinidad and Tobago, not for Kamala. And who is Kamala tax? When the Prime Minister goes to visit the President, I never hear more. Dominic, so you had to call, see, Miss Kamala, I want to go and visit the President. You know, a lady who appeared to be very uncomfortable with the standing up, and we used to ask ourselves at the time, we want to see how relative you is to your speech. Stand up on one leg. Dominic, you ever heard that when you was a child?
Nah, I didn't hear.
Stand up on one leg, and I would know if you're talking good. Well, that lady cannot do that. Surely, I would not be able to predict or assume what happens. All I know, sometimes it appears to me she's one cannot stand up on one leg when talking. Dominic, thank you very much for allowing this contribution. Thank you. They afraid you. In them grip, all of them, they are the head for the toilet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You know, the Attorney General also raised the issue of Mrs. Prasad Bisesa accessing confidential documents. And this is something that I've been asking for the longest while. Because on at least 2 occasions, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa would have read from cabinet notes, and not only read from it, put it up on a big screen behind her at her Monday night forum. Now, under the Freedom of Information Act, cabinet notes are considered to be exempt documents. So you could write if you want to get information on a cabinet note, and you will be rejected because it is an exempt document. And I think it was in 2007 that Mr. Manning and they had put that in place, as certain documents that to be considered exempt. And the UNC was up and down the place all about, they're trying to hide information and how they could do that. Came into office in 2010, 29 seats, parliamentary majority, and did absolutely nothing to change that. They left it just as it is with all the exempt documents. So how is it that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa is getting these documents? Is it that she has somebody working inside the Prime Minister's office, another one of the minions, just like they have in NGC and Petrotrin? So they just have the minions planted all over the place, looking for things to give. Anyway. Hello, good afternoon.
Dominic.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you doing, Dominic?
I am good.
Well, Dominic, you don't know the UNC collapsed already?
Long time.
They collapsed. You understand? I just imagine, Dominic, in opposition 5 times. You know they refuse. They refuse, Dominic. You understand
Yes.
me on the debate? You understand me? They collapse, Dominic. Dominic, well, I never know that the Prime Minister has to get permission from the opposition leader to go and see the president. You understand me, Dominic?
Yes.
Dominic, I don't know what is taking place in Trinidad and Tobago with this opposition leader. As I said again, I know they collapse right now. Dominic, they catch them with their pants down. They didn't expect that budget. You understand me, Dominic?
Yes.
That's the reason why they're going on that road. But Dominic, I want to say yesterday we had a very good turnout yesterday in Diego Martin West down there. Very, very good, Dominic. You know, so the supporters and all came down there and paid us a visit also too.
And the Prime Minister was there, right?
Yes, and Dominic, Dr. Rowley, oh my goodness, Lord. Dominic, Dr. Rowley had to be, he come in there, you know, he had to come because this is constituency, you know. Run away from Parliament and then he had to go back in. Dominic, it's not a...
You mean he wasn't playing golf?
Beg pardon?
He wasn't playing golf like Khadija Amin said?
No. When the Prime Minister came there, I want to repeat it again. He come there fully dressed with his suit, his jacket, you understand me, and his tie. He left Parliament to come in his constituency. You hear what I'm saying, Dominic? And then to return back there. You understand me? Playing golf, Dominic. I really not tell you, Kadisha not totally messy, you know what I'm telling you about. You know, he had to come at least, you know, to pay, you know, it's his constituency, Dominic. You understand me? It was really, really good, and he got a good turnout, Dominic, to be honest, you understand me? And to the Minister of Health Secretary, good afternoon to you, ma'am, you understand me? It was really, really good down there, Dominic. On it, Dominic, I didn't even expect to see so much people. To be honest with you, I didn't even expect for us to get that turnout, Dominic. You understand me? Because we started at 9 o'clock, and before we started to put things in place, Dominic, the people started to come in to get their vaccine. That was very, very good. So if Kadisha know that he was playing golf, probably he was playing golf with Kadisha down on the, where you went and play golf with Dominic?
Down Chagaramas?
Well, right. Probably he went and played with her down there, you understand me? He was playing golf down there. They're not totally messed, you understand me? A totally mess. But Dominic, you have a good one, Dominic.
You too. And that's why I know, because the pictures that I'm seeing, the videos that I'm seeing, the Prime Minister is dressed in a suit and tie. I know normally for these events, the Prime Minister would usually be casual. So the fact that he was dressed in that week says to me that either he was clearly planning to go back to the Parliament, only to find that before he had an opportunity to do so, the opposition capitulated. Hello, good afternoon.
Mr. Good afternoon to you, Dominic.
Kingsley.
Yes, ma'am. And I pay special attention to Parliament because Parliament is dear to my heart. I've been in Parliament already 5 times already in my life, in the gallery, watching debate. So I understand a little bit. But I listened to the meeting there with Dr. Rowley and Fitzgerald Hines and them some days ago. And it's what catch me is what Fitzgerald Hines said. And I was like, wow. To this say it, he said, the opposition MPs come there to upset the Parliament. And I couldn't believe that they put a chair where the camera cast sit. What he said, where every time Saddam Hussein got up to disturb the Parliament, the opposition leader run and sit down. I question it. I said, why every night, why every Monday night, at the Monday night virtual report, why Kamala Prasad Bisata sitting down? Why she's sitting down to speak? It's the first time I see that political leader, and I must say it, cannot go up on a platform and stand up for an hour straight without taking a minute or 2 minutes sit down. And that's what's going on there in Parliament. Every time the opposition MPs get up, it's to give Kamala a break to go and sit down. How sad. How sad. And that's why we always say today, who is holding Kamala handbag. Because it's not Kingsley again. It is not Kingsley again. Because I would tell her that's not looking nice for the public. It's not looking nice. It's sad to see that today the opposition are weak. There's no opposition in the country. I'm sad to say it. It hurts me to say it, but I have to say it. It's the only way they might get strong if I say it, or they might get strong again. But it's what catch me also to know that this MP who went in Parliament trying to speak proper English, trying to say the T, the S, the Z, the Y, F, everything straight out, that you could say a man woke up to a wheelchair man woke up to you. How that wheelchair man get up from that wheelchair and walk up to you, Miss Moet? I see the pigtail living in you, Miss Moet. The pigtail has to be living in you, you know. The pigtail has to be living in you, Miss Moet, you know. Because how dare you, I call it making fun at people in the wheelchair. Now what I call it making fun of people in the wheelchair. It's sad. It's also sad to see that this morning I wake up because I see the end of the Parliament. I didn't see the 5 minutes before the drama take place. Because I was outside, now come inside, and see Parliament. So the morning I wake up, I see the UNC pose up, the government bowed down. So I went on YouTube and I went on the Parliament station and I see that what take place. I see Dr. Mudiral, Kadisha Amin, the Speaker, the Chief Whip of the House, David Lee, and Saddam Hussein, by the four, I pick up. And all Dr. Mudiral was studying is to move emotion, because that was his contribution. That was his contribution for the budget, you know. That was to go after virus, you know. Because I heard Kalisha saying, Mudiral, it's time for you to speak, but nobody ain't got to speak. Nobody in the opposition ain't got to speak. And now the pushing this lie and this hate against this country. Bacchanal, I said this cannot win election. And before I go, my last point, it's shame to see that Kamala Prasad Bisasa cut a ribbon for a standpipe some years ago. The same thing was going on, you know. Because at that time, Kamala went and boost some community and build a little water dump for someone. The same thing they do up in Laventille, and they have a standpipe for Kamala to cut the ribbon. You know these nasty Indians and them. No, I have to say it so.
No, Kingsley, you can't say that.
Okay, well, let me not say so. These nasty politicians and them. These nasty politicians and them who take it and put it at race of black people and I do not know where they're going with this. I don't know where they're going with this, and I have to say this. I want to put them on notice. I will say this one before I go. Dr. Rowley, one thing I like with him, and it shows that he's a true leader. He stands up with his ministers. He lifts up his hands and say, I, the Prime Minister, he tell the opposition this. He said, I don't feel in birth going the funds, you know. Our funds, you know. He said, I have to sign up on that. He said, I have to sign up on that. It's me. I am the Prime Minister. And but can't go there just without me. He said, I put Cyrus there. He stand up and represent and lead from in front like I do in Bravo. He lead from in front all rounder in the game. He lead from the front and throw up his hand and tell the opposition, don't bring no confidence motion against Cyrus or Inwood. Bring it against me, the Prime Minister. Up to now, after 6 years, the opposition cannot bring no confidence motion against Dr. Kissouri as the Prime Minister of this country. They go after Cyrus, they go after the Speaker, but Dr. Rowley says, I am the man, I am in charge, I am the box of me. So why? You know why? The opposition have no weapon. They are weak. They cannot go after Dr. Rowley. They have no ammunition. Because a man who's saying, hey, it's not Cyrus, it's not Inbrook, it's not Stuart Young, it's not Fisher Hines, but I am the leader. The box of me. And that's what I'm saying. Dr. Rowley leading like Dwayne Bravo, an all-rounder, a man who play all over the world. So, Dominic, I am a UNC. I'm not vying to be the PNM. I'm not vying to be the PNM. But today I am seeing my parties mashing up and telling lies and misleading this country. Who the hell is the leader of the party? Kamala Prasad this must come out clean and tell us if Dave Tanko is running the party now. And this is a question I'm asking. Kamala Prasad must come out and tell us if it's Dave Tanko is the new political leader of the UNC, the shadow political leader of the UNC, because they have shadow minister ahead. But then tell us who is the shadow political leader of the opposition. And I'm saying I want to ask if it's Dave Tanko, Kamala Prasad, because I thank you very much. So much to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Kingsley. The views expressed are not the views of the Street 919 FM. We do not tolerate racist comments. Please, so. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And
yes, sir.
Very good day to you, sir, and to Sharon, Gola 91.9, the listening ears of Trinidad and Tobago and all around the world. I just going to bring back something. This is a playback. I remember Mrs. Kamala's inauguration, that rainy time. And I remember the fight goes all around the world. I remember that I have never seen or read in a book that while a person is being, let's say, people happy for this inauguration of this person, you know, Kobos die, they just stop and start to fall down. No way in the world that ever happened. And I, with myself, I start wondering, people just play with. If you throw something through a window or you kill a dog, they know what that is. You know they could not know what that meant. Some people.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dominic. Good
yes,
afternoon. This opposition is the greatest in this country, you know. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they're the greatest, you know. I sat and I listened to this Khadija Amin talk yesterday. And I say, this is what the people in this country voted for, boy. They would have voted for in this country. And then all they had the audacity to come and say the government caused the way to collapse. But Dominic, between me and you, I in the view that they had nothing, absolutely nothing to bring on the table in debating the budget, because this budget for the next 12 months is one of the best budgets this country ever had in 59 years of independence. And that was killing Kamala and she minions and them in the opposition. Right? I want the opposition leader and the former minister of public utilities to answer this question. Why there was a fire in the Wassa compound mere days before the 2015 general election? That is my question to the opposition leader. Until they answer that, we can't be in meddling and we building all this thing. Right? Dominic, I lock on and listening.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Perhaps while they are at it, they could tell us about the 17,000 body bags. Remember that Kingsley used to call about? What was the purpose of that 17,000 body bags? Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Dominic.
Yes, sir, greeting.
And I'm so grateful for what we are hearing today. You know, your program, you know, Dominic, it's amazing. I remember when, in the form of Mr. Pandey, Kevin Ramnath, even Trevor Sudama, we had people who would have stood up there for, if it's up to 10, 11 in the night and wait. And being in opposition, you could have even listened to Mr. Pandey, especially from 91 to 95. In one of his presentations in the budget, you could have heard a pin drop when Mr. Pandey was responding to Mr. Manning in a budget debate. And it had substance. Even the term, I think you could recall when he said, in the whole house, he said, Madam, Mr. Speaker, it's a terminological inexactitude.
Yes.
And then he said, it's simply, in its English accent, it's just a lie. Those are the things that the UNC don't know, that they have catapulted leadership to give us someone who, while you want to vote on it, that's fine. But add some substance to Trinidad and Tobago in a UNC response to budget under the leadership of Kamala Persad-Bissessar. When I shake myself to hear the leadership and the stuttering, the displacement, it was as though they gave her something to read. She did not read it, go through it, and came to the parliament and stumbled for 2 and something hours. It was painful. And that goes against the backdrop that the Minister of Finance, in the meeting the Monday or the Tuesday, said 90% of Trinidadians, people of Trinidad and Tobago, are right thinking. And Kamala Persad don't know that, in that you will always be playing catch up unless the UNC decides to sit down and change the leader. And not only that, the composition of the people in the parliament that we have to sit and listen to, it's painful. There's no substance. And in my little, Facebook, I just when I said, listen, they are so absorbed with bad spirit and, bad behavior from their leader that you would make mistakes like, coming to the parliamentary debate and somebody will respond to you and said, nobody lives there. And then somebody said, a man in a wheelchair walk up to you. Something is wrong with the UNC, and unless Central and they understand that we here is not to hear the opposition always look bad. We look for an alternative that could make sense. That's what Mr. Pandey did from 91 to 95. He got through as being the Prime Minister after that. You cannot come to the Parliament and only raise issues where you feel could make you viable. And not only that, there are issues that you would have gone through in your term in office. We went through the whole question of the commissions and all these independent bodies that they railroad their way into under a disingenuous and disorganized Anand Ramlogan. So when I hear Kamala Persad and people have to know, Dominic, people have to know when somebody is regarded as damaged goods. And before you further get embarrassment. And I want to tell the media and these top, independent thinkers and so on, that go easy on Ms. Persad-Bissessar even after her budget debate, where the headline was they pulled out 2 things from her hat with the AG and never critically analyzed that the response to the budget was really, really full of mediocrity. All behave and be fair to Dr. Rowley and I have always embraced the fact, Dominic, that Dr. Rowley made a point that the hemorrhaging of money under corruption, once you get it in line for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, a pandemic will look as though we're living okay. And that's what happened. We had problems. But you know what? The people of Trinidad and Tobago, though, had people that went through hardship, lived in a country where we were comfortable. And it's the fact that people who wanted help, they were getting help. So I can end. Thank you for this program. And for all the people that called in, I really feel good today. Because this country, notwithstanding having good leadership in government, we need to see a better and strong leadership and good response from a leader of the opposition who can't recognize when you are damaged goods. Something is wrong with that. Take care, brother. All the best.
Thank you, sir. And with that, we're out of time, but not out of things to say. Join Sharon and Bruce in the morning for Titans of Democracy at 6 o'clock. And God's willing, I will be back on Tuesday morning where we will talk about Vandana Mohit. Apparently, she is the new Jesus Christ. She told the man, get up and walk. She said a man in a wheelchair walked up to her. So we will discuss that. We will also have the picture of Mrs. Persad-Bissessar also cutting ribbon to open standpipe. Yesterday was yesterday and today is today. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday and the rest of your weekend, and God's willing, we will chat on Tuesday. So